Andy, is it true? I heard a market rumor that you were in a sleigh delivering silver all around the country last week. Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics and this week's physical silver and gold market update with Andy James Bond Schectman of precious metals dealer Miles Franklin. Andy, is it true? I heard a market rumor that you were in a sleigh delivering silver all around the country last week and getting some nice silver bullion to all the good girls and boys out there. Was that you up there?
It certainly is a nice thought, and I would like to believe that a lot of the silver we've delivered this year has found its way into the stockings of all the good boys and girls. Actually, I took the first week off from work that I have taken since literally February, 7 days a week, mind you. So I brought the family skiing in Utah, and it was nice to feel human again and actually take part in something outside of the house, which was nice.
Yeah, I heard you had some hotshot consultant who showed up this year, helped you get a little more free time in the schedule.
Man, I love you for that, Chris, and we'll forever be grateful. And yeah, it's helped, no question about it.
Well, I heard this great quote. I was reading something this week, and they were saying something to the effect of perhaps life is a balance between, yes, there are things to get done, but also finding some fun and relaxation in there. And I don't know, I think a lot of us get passionate about what we do. I've certainly taken a while to let that one sink in, but glad to hear you got a little bit of a break.
It's a tough thing. Yeah, it's a tough balance, Chris. And in 2020, when things just seem to be so hectic and changing every day, finding that balance is a tough thing. And I think for all of us out there, trying to find a little bit of balance in your life is very important. I've learned that the hard way.
And you were able to go on a vacation, brave the elements of low inflation, and escaped unharmed, hopefully, and families intact?
To $190 per lift ticket at Deer Valley. Low inflation. Inflation is finding its way into the system little by little. And when you pay $190 per person, and 5 people in my family per day to ski, I would question whether or not inflation is low or beginning to accelerate in a parabolic hyperactivity type of atmosphere. I guess that remains to be seen here in 2021.
Well, I guess perhaps the best part about that silver clause is that thanks to you, a lot of people will be able to continue skiing. I mean, I guess, now I know there's that school of thought. Some people say you don't buy gold or silver to make a profit. I get what they're saying. And I mean, with all of that said, I don't know. I buy silver and silver stocks because I expect to come out ahead, hopefully big at some point in time. Yet, there's different perspectives. That's not legal financial advice. I'm just sharing what I do. Although a little bit more simply to the earlier school of thought, I think that's whether you come out ahead or just maintain for the people who want to continue to be able to go on a vacation or go skiing when, I mean, it's sad, or I don't know, maybe not sad. It just is what it is. The Fed seems to have made clear that they're not going to slow down, and at least whenever it's like you see where it's headed, and whenever that happens, one of the advantages of silver, in my opinion, is that you can still go skiing after that. Maybe you could buy your own ski lift if you have enough silver.
Yeah, there's no question. In fact, it's really interesting, Chris, because I think it's important, at least for people out there, to understand that I truly do believe you don't buy precious metals to profit. You buy it because it is wealth. And that's how I have looked at or learned this industry. As I've told you before, that was the only rule my father imposed upon me in 1989 as a 19-year-old kid starting in this industry, was that I will buy something every 2 weeks or he would fire me. Now I own the company and am president, and
you get grounded if you didn't buy enough silver. I love it.
Yeah, he said he'd fire me, and so every 2 weeks for over 30 years. It is. It's the greatest gift my father ever gave me. He never really gave me anything but an opportunity and a mandate to save. And in 30 years, I've never missed a 2-week period. I think it's very important to know that. But I will say this, that for the first time in my career, I truly do believe that upside potential with silver is wickedly on the table. I mean, I think it is the most undervalued asset on the planet. And you made one important distinction, and that is the mining shares. In January of 2016, I put $30,000 into First Majestic at just over $3.25, and by July, 7 months later, that was worth almost $250,000. And so, when you talk about leverage potential, the folks that you have on your show and whom you are endorsing and promoting, these are the types of vehicles where you make real money. And gold and silver have always been wealth to me. And yes, I would say it also offers a kicker, at least silver does, as an asset that is still considered and has been for 5,000 plus years wealth and real money, but it offers amazing upside. So it's a real interesting time to own silver, I think, and something worth mentioning. So I'm glad you brought that point up.
Yeah, and perhaps it also helps to know what one is expecting. I mean, if you go buy a screwdriver and you try and hammer a nail in with it, you'd be like, wow, this sucked. And if you try and screw something in, you might think, wow, this actually served its purpose quite well. So I guess back to silver more, it is just maintaining or savings. I remember when I was little, whether it was, I didn't have a bar mitzvah, raised Protestant, but remember there was some events, parties growing up where people got me a savings bond, and it was like a $25 bond. And after some point in time, eventually it became $50, which is a little harder to put into play now when you have negative interest rates. Then on top of it, the Fed is hyperinflating the dollar, so it's losing value. If you even just hold dollars in the bank, which was supposedly the moniker of the true most conservative, safest thing to do, you have incredible bank risk. Now they say, well, the FDIC is going to cover it. Someone mentioned that on the show the other day. I'm like, well, where are they going to get the money for that? So they're going to print that to further devalue it, let alone if one of these banks just collapses and fails, and either you lose your money or the Fed prints more money to bail that out. So obviously we've talked about the safe haven treasury and the virtues of that Ponzi scheme. So if people are looking at, like, they want to leave something for their children, or if they want the safest thing to do, I know on one hand, silver, from one perspective, it would only be appropriate to call it highly volatile. Yet if you're really trying to do the right thing for your children 10 or 20 or 30 years from now, I don't know, what would you say is the safest thing people could do at this exact moment in time going into 2021?
Yeah, first of all, the person on your show that mentioned that was Alistair McLeod. One of the best interviews I've heard on your channel all year. I suggest everyone check that out. He's a brilliant, brilliant mind, maybe the best mind in this industry. I try to catch everything that he has to say. It's always original and very thought-provoking. It's interesting. I opened up a drawer the other day and found a savings bond that was given to my son 20 years ago. He was born in the year 2000, and it's a 30-year bond with $100 face value. And I can only imagine, what $100 bought in 2000 versus what it buys today. You go to the grocery store, you buy a prime rib roast, you're going to have 4 or 5 people over, or you're making dinner for your family. It's $100+ dollars. You buy a couple boxes of berries and a few other things, and you're already almost at $300. The dollar is being inflated away, no question about it. And so when we talk about what you can leave for people, that to me is the immutability of gold and silver. And that's what I was getting at the very beginning. It's wealth. You're giving someone wealth that has been accepted as wealth and hunted down by human civilization for over 5,000, almost 6,000 years, you're giving someone immutable wealth. And I think there's something to be said for it, because look, by human nature, it has been my experience that people will hold on to their gold and silver as the last asset they own because it takes a modicum of effort to sell it. And so it just lends itself to being wealth and wealth preservation. And not only that, it's beautiful to look at, it's awe-inspiring. And because we've been in search of it literally since the beginning of time, it's almost in our DNA. And you hold a piece of silver or a piece of gold in your hand, if you never have, it's like staring into a flame. There's something magical about it. So I love the question. I think it is a fantastic question, and I think it's thought-provoking. Look, gold and silver are wealth. It's a way to protect your wealth from what's happening to the currency. Go to the grocery store, you'll see it. And when you see a drive towards digital currencies, which is happening, especially it's already moving in rapid progression with the Chinese renminbi, it's happening. And as that happens, you cut out the commercial banks and you sow the seeds for hyperinflation, because the commercial banks want to actually rein in their lending as their balance sheets are decimated by COVID and the bankruptcies. And so you have no money velocity. If they get their wish into 2021 and we see a acceptance of a cryptocurrency backed, dollar, yuan, renminbi system, what have you, then the whole game changes. Not only have we lost all of our privacy, but you now sow the seeds of massive inflation, because the central banks don't have a profit and loss mentality on their balance sheet the way that the commercial banks do. They don't care. They'll continue to print. We'll go full modern monetary theory. So this is why you own silver and gold, because in times of uncertainty, I think that it's the most important thing to do. And look, this is the time of year where people are making all sorts of predictions. But if you look at 2020, if you were trying to make predictions at the end of 19, and with the repo market crisis, you may have said, things will get nuts and the banks will be in trouble. That no one could have predicted what would have happened in 2020. And when you see what's going on with the Bolshevik revolution here in this country, to even imagine that people would vote for a socialist agenda, when we are being told how we can call someone, the words that we can use to describe a man or a woman or gender whatsoever, you're beginning to see a sea change in mentality in this country. And it goes a lot deeper than economics. So look, Chris, I think giving someone silver and gold in times of tremendous uncertainty that we see right now is, in this Marxist ideology that's taking over the country. And sadly, I guess all I could say is it seems to me that something wicked this way comes. And I think owning gold and silver right now, falling back on the history that it offers, is really important. And as a gift, especially, carries a lot more significance than just about anything else you could give somebody. Maybe a Bitcoin would be good too, but or a fractional Bitcoin. But gold and silver to me are wealth and immutable wealth that will last the test of time through this crazy period that we're in right now as well.
Yes, and Andy, it's interesting. As we were saying that, I was doing a little sleuthing here in the Arcadia cave, and I looked to find what $1 was worth in 1920. And I think this is based on CPI data, but it says that $1 in 1920 is equivalent to $13.01 today, which it looks like, oh, interesting. This is, yes, with CPI data. Fortunately, this great site does the math for us. That's a 2.57% average inflation rate. So over the last 100 years, even before quantitative easing and rigging the data, we're already over the Fed's mandate. So that this next time Powell comes up and tells us how we have like a inflation deficit, the math, even using their rigged data, shows again that that is another fallacious concept like usual, but does show that the dollar, at least according to those numbers, If you had $1 in 1920, you know that backs out to how much it's worth today?
How much?
7 cents. So basically, even using rigged data, the government has stolen 93 cents out of every dollar. Government, central banks, I mean, I just lump them one into the same group. So, but again, so another way of looking at it, if a dollar became $13.01, so basically, just to maintain your purchasing power, you had to go up 13x. So I figured I'd take a look at silver, and not easy to find a ton of data on silver, although SD Bullion's got a chart here. It's interesting. It looks like in 1920, silver was at, I mean, I guess it's only showing a price for the year, about $1.30. Then this chart, it looks like it got spoofed down the next year to about 70 cents. So let's call that $1 just to average it out. And silver is at $26 or so. So basically, even over the last 100 years, even using rigged data that includes the price of anything that's going up and a rigged silver price that requires tons of paper contracts to keep it lower, silver has still outperformed 2-to-1, beaten inflation over the past 100 years. So, I mean, I get it. People, when they wake up, it's Sunday night, silver's up $1. Monday morning, it's down $2. Maybe they don't want to think about the price 100 years ago, but I guess it does fill that role that you're talking about.
Yeah, it'll retain its purchasing power, and that's the thing. People have grown accustomed to moonshot markets. You look at cryptocurrencies, and people believe that's how markets should behave. Look, no one even noticed the fact that gold and silver are up 30 or 40% this year, respectively. And, because it pales in comparison to the cryptocurrencies and to a rigged stock market. But that's what gold and silver do. They're the tortoise, not the hare. And you wake up to find that not only in that example have you retained your purchasing power, you doubled it 13 times versus 26 times. And so, it's a game of retaining your purchasing power and looking at return of your money more so than return on it right now. And all of the distortions that we've seen, courtesy of the Fed and all of the central banks that are printing money at a fever pace, have created distortions in the marketplaces that people believe this is how markets are supposed to behave. Well, there will come a day of reckoning, and when that happens, I think people will be very, very glad that they own precious metals. And I did want to touch on one quick thing, Chris, because I think I don't know if you'll ask me this question, but I really want to diverge for 1 second and tell you that to me, 2020, one of the biggest developments to me was the rise of the other reportable category on the COMEX and how they continue to take delivery of metal and in massive quantities. And even with the volatility that we've seen in the market towards the end of the year, I think that it's important to take a look at what the others have done on the last Commitment and Traders report that just came out. They have bumped up their net long position by 367 net contracts. Not a ton, but in gold, it is the largest long position that this others category has had all year. This is the group that has been challenging the commercial banks. And you're looking at a situation where naked shorting, the commercial banks are in a massive hole and they can't get out of it. There is not enough liquidity, not enough gold to get out. They are being challenged by this group, the family offices and the sovereign wealth funds. And they're doing the same thing in silver. They have now their largest net long position in silver, over 10,000 contracts. And so, you have this group that is kind of challenging the whole system. And as the Basel III requirements go into effect in a few months, you're going to see, I think, a sea change in precious metals as the reserve requirements are increasing. Big money is taking possession of gold and silver. And I think 2021 should, if I had to guess, should bode very well for the price of gold and silver. And this others category is showing exactly that it's a dangerous game to be short on COMEX, and because they're continuing to take big positions and require delivery. And this is what was very different in 2020, and I look for it to be a central theme in 2021. It looks, at least that's the way this last Commitment of Traders report that just came out the other day certainly looks to be shaping up.
Well, Andy, I mean, when you short silver, well, it's half of its 1980 and 2011 highs, while basically every other asset on the planet is at record all-time highs. You know, and when you short silver in that context, I might add, in the face of the Fed doing its modern day recreation of hyperinflation gone wild. I mean, how could that not work out?
Yeah, it will work out. It'll work out very well for people who own silver because of its inelastic qualities. Inelastic meaning it doesn't matter how high the price goes. It still is needed for all of these commodities. And as I've said on your show before, I think 2021 will set the stage for a battle between the industrials and the value hunting investors. And the industrials, when you look at I think you were saying just the other day, a 315 million or so ounce shortfall this year. If we see the Democrats take hold here in Georgia, heaven forbid, and a Green New Deal agenda rolled out, the need for silver is ever increasing, and it is a depleted asset. The price of silver could go to the moon because of its inelasticity, meaning if you only need, a hundredth of an ounce to make an iPhone, I don't think Apple cares how high it goes. They're going to need to secure the product. And the same thing goes for Samsung and all of the other industrials that need silver. And as that happens and the price starts to skyrocket, when you're looking at hedge funds that are fighting for pennies in every single asset class, and how do you not notice silver at, like you just said, 50% of its all-time high in a depleted situation where you have a shortfall of supply versus an ever-increasing demand? It's setting the stage for amazing performance. And so as we circle back to the very beginning of this conversation, yeah, it's not an investment, it's wealth. But I would be lying if I said anything other than I'm looking for massive increase in silver. I really am, because of all of these things that we've been talking about. The one thing I've learned, Chris, in 30 years of business is that when you base your ideas upon logic, mathematics, economics, and sprinkle that old school logic on top of the math and the economics, it comes true. It just never comes true when or how we think it will, but it does. Mother Nature has a way of working itself out or herself out. And it will happen in silver too. Despite the distortions and the manipulations that have been created over the last several years, Mother Nature and the free market, as it pertains to gold and silver, I think, will exert themselves. And so I'm very hopeful that the things that we are talking about will set the stage, not only for people to preserve, which is so important right now, but also to increase their wealth at a period of time when I think people are going to be sadly, alarmed by what can happen when a market goes bad, in a market that has been distorted. Their values have been wickedly distorted over the last several years. And when Mother Nature corrects those distortions and we go back to sound money, I think you'll see very quickly that the things that we have been talking about probably have been understated quite substantially to where this all will play out. And, again, this is not about making money. It's about retaining money and preserving it. But everything that I see in the marketplace tells me that, as you were saying earlier, that it would be foolish to not suspect that we'll see a profit down the road based upon the setup. And the best part about it is that you can also protect and preserve your wealth at the same time. And there are very few things that do that act as a life raft, but also a potential profit center. And that's exactly the way that I look at silver.
Well, as the old saying goes, is there really anything silver can't do? Andy, real quick, wrapping up Gee, I guess this is going to be our first, when this is aired, our first show of 2021. Heading into this new year, quick update. What are people buying? What's the order flow like? What's happening with the premiums? And what should people know on any product notes going into the new year?
It's the amount of junk silver that has been bought recently is astounding to me. The pre-65 silver, people are very concerned about a currency collapse and the utility that is found in pre-65 U.S. coins. In fact, it's really dominated what we've sold over the last several weeks. Now, we have been offering that to your listeners as a special. We'll continue to do that. I do have another one for you, but we'll continue to offer the $0.50 at $1.75 over, the dimes and quarters at $1.39 over. And again, the amount of silver purchases versus gold purchases is probably 5 to 1. I think it is really very difficult to ignore the potential that silver offers. And you know, the ratio between gold and silver is slowly creeping back towards its mean, as we've been talking about for a long time, 71 or 72, somewhere in that neighborhood. It was 125 in March. To me, the place to be is in silver. If you're looking for the biggest bang for the buck and the greatest utility, it is in the pre-65 dimes, quarters, and half dollars. You know, you asked a question about premium, and this has been a topic that you and I have talked about for the last few weeks. You know, you do have some companies right now that are trying to clean out inventory for their required purchases in 2021. You'll find a little bit of value out there in premiums, but here again, premiums in general are double what they have been my entire career. When you're paying $4 an ounce basically for Silver Eagles, that's pretty dang close to at least 50, 60% higher than they've ever been. When you're paying you know, $3, $4 an ounce over for all of the minted coins, that's pretty close to double what they've been for the last 30 years. And so the question becomes, is this the beginning of a trend into 2021? And as Alistair McLeod so eloquently stated on your show, you know, the rise in Bitcoin is opening the eyes of the public. You know, when he compared it to Weimar Republic Germany, back then, there were no cryptocurrencies, there were no internet, there was no Venmo or credit cards. People had to go get their money from the bank, cash their check, get money from the bank, run to the store, and try to buy things before they were inflated away. Now it's rapid. It's just immediately rapid. So, you know, things are changing, and so I think that right now the very, very, very best place to put your money is in pre-65 silver, which gives you not only the biggest bang for the buck, but the greatest utility and flexibility if we see a hyperinflationary event like Argentina, like Venezuela. Who's to say it won't happen here? And 2020, I don't think anyone would have thought possible what we've seen. Could 2021 upstage 2020? I guess we'll have to see. But if you're looking for the best place to put your money, to me, it's pre-65 dimes, quarters, and half dollars. I am also going to offer the 2020 South African silver Krugerrand at $2.99 over the price of silver. I have about 15,000 of those in stock that we would offer at $2.99 over to your listeners as well. Anything that you can buy right now at half of its all-time high nearly, Chris, even with premium included, is a darn good buy, and I think 2021 will certainly render this type of discussion. I think in terms of availability and premium, I think we'll look back at the prices that we see now and the premiums and the availability and realize it was still a pretty darn good deal. If things go half the way that I think they will, yeah, I think there's great value out there right now. Pre-65 silver and these South African Krugerrands are probably the best premium that I've seen all year in terms of both items for the special for your listeners.
Well, I appreciate that. And Andy, can you give them the email address one more time if they want the specials, if they want some Anyone want some platinum questions or just help with any of these topics, can you give them the email address one more time, please?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's Arcadia at Miles Franklin, Arcadia at milesfranklin.com. And we'll make sure that your listeners are given the best service and the best prices as humanly possible in the industry. And I do like your call on platinum. It is very much similar to silver on many levels, albeit it's much more difficult to get than silver. But setting the stage for, I think, a big rally in platinum as well, based upon nearly the exact same fundamentals that silver has. Not quite as much industrial demand, but certainly an asset that is vastly undervalued in comparison to gold from where it's been literally for the last 100 years. So I like that. And as always, Chris, it's always good to be here. I wish you and yours a happy, healthy 2021. And I look forward to coming back weekly after the new year.
Yeah, and Andy, just to wrap that all up, wrap up 2020, I finally did get that roll of the Britannias. They're quite, I mean, I've never seen a coin where it's just a very distinct, shiny luster to it. They're quite beautiful. I got a couple of books. I don't know. There might be a present on your way. I don't know why I asked for your address last night. I don't know. But sometimes I throw these coins in there and they're so darn beautiful that I got 3 ready to go for anyone who takes this interview, tags Miles Franklin. And you can tag me on it if you'd like, although really to enter to win, streamline this a little bit. So tag at Arcadia Silver 1 and Miles Franklin. And I'm going to send 3 of those out to our beautiful audience to start the new year off right, get people enjoying silver as money. And thanks for the coins, buddy. I love them.
I will add 3 to that also, but make sure you get me, let's make that 6. Yep. Make sure you get me the names and I will send those out as well. It's certainly been a great year of going through a process with you that I wouldn't take back. And it's just been fantastic getting to know you on a different level, Chris. And I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate the airtime and I take it very, very seriously. I try to personally touch base with your listeners whenever I have the opportunity. And I thank you for that very much. It's something that I look very much forward to continuing in 2021 and something I hold very close to my heart, our relationship. And so for all your listeners out there, please feel free to reach out to us at Arcadia, Miles Franklin, specific questions, prices, price shopping, whatever it may be. We relish the opportunity to continue the relationship and make sure it is a good experience. And let's not forget that Miles Franklin is in Minnesota, the only state in the United States where you have to be licensed and bonded in a federally non-regulated industry. So when we try to compare things, compare apples to apples, doing business with Miles Franklin through Arcadia would be the safest transaction in the industry, bar none. And I'll make darn sure of that personally.
Well, I sure appreciate that. And Andy, you mentioned that interview with Alistair McLeod. In case you're at home and you didn't watch it, or you loved it and wanted to see it again, well, you don't have to go anywhere. Just click right there because it is coming your way now.